to allow. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first Agape podcast. I'm Ada Neumann. I'm here with my mom today, Jennifer Neumann. So excited to be here. We've been wanting to do this for a really long time. Just share information, get you guys a little glimpse inside of our program. And today we have a really exciting topic, which is how to get your horse's FEI sound on a budget. And this is our holistic approach. I can't think of a better person to join me than my mom. She's such a huge part of the business, especially in terms of soundness and the horse's health. She's my eyes on the ground. She's the one who really makes that happen. So welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So we are going to, we're gonna start by talking about kind of how we go about things and getting our horses sound. I think this is probably one of the most important things that we do for our horses is focusing on their soundness and health, especially taking a holistic approach because we always have sale horses and we're trying to keep expenses as low as possible. We don't always have 10 grand to put into vet work. So we've had to come up with alternative ways to get our horses feeling really good because that's such an essential part of the training that we do. Because if they don't feel well, it doesn't matter how much training you do, the horse just is not going to be able to perform at its best. So I would say that's about like 60% of our program is focusing on the soundness and health. And one of the first things that we do is the feed and supplements that we do with all the horses when they get to our barn. I think the first thing that we do is kind of give them like a once over and we figure out what needs to get better, what kind of soundness help they need so that they can really thrive in the actual training part of our program. So the first thing is the feed and supplements, and I'll let you jump in here too about your thoughts and opinions about the different feeds that we use. So if you want to go ahead and start sharing what we do on that end, that would be great.
Yeah, so first thing we do is the feed is a big part of it, obviously, when how to feed a horse. So depending if they're an easy keeper or a hard keeper, we have two different routes. I would say with the easy keepers, we've come across this grain called Cool Stance, and it's basically just coconut meal. And the reason we like it is because it, one, does not have any other fillers in it, and it's high protein but low fat, and it's made for metabolic horses especially. And after being in Florida, it's very good for the non-sweater type. So we came across it through a little mini we had that didn't sweat and needed help with that. And the grain helped with that, but it also builds a great top line because it is high in protein. And it's good for our easy keepers. You only have to feed a very small, like 1 cup twice a day, which is very small. You weigh it. And so a big bag will last you almost 2 months for one horse, depending on how much they eat. But also, it can be used on our, harder keepers as well. I don't think, but we would want to add then maybe extra hay. So when you feed it, you have to have really good quality hay is important. And then depending if it's a harder keep, would you say we just use alfalfa? A
little alfalfa. But the nice thing about the Cool Stance also is it doesn't have a lot of sugar. So it's not going to make
sugar
super hot, and it's not processed, which I think is the most important thing.
It's
because the more processed grains that have all the wheat middlings and all of this other junk in them, it's really hard for the horses to digest, and it causes a lot of inflammation in their bodies. So one of the things that I love about the grain is that it doesn't have any of the processed garbage in it. So the horses are not as inflamed in general, and that eliminates so many problems with a lot of horses.
Yes, exactly. And would you say with the harder keepers, sometimes we've been known to use Renew Gold, which includes Cool Stance and a high fat rice bran oil. So that helps to put weight on horses. And sometimes when we do that, then we can't feed the Cool Stance. We'd have to add some form of grain. We happen to like the Tribute Calm and Easy line, works good for us, and then the Renew Gold. But we don't feed very much of the Calm and Easy when we add the Renew Gold because the Renew Gold has the Cool Stance. So we really only feed like a quarter scoop to a really big horse plus the little cup of the Renew Gold, I would say.
Used to do that more, but I feel like lately we've just been doing straight cool stance, and that's been really
Yes.
great for variety. I mean, we had two totally opposite horses this winter. We had one that was super fat, like almost metabolic, and then we had one that was more thoroughbredy and he needed more food. And really, they both thrived on the grain.
Just the cool stance.
Cool stance. It still built out their top line. The fat one just got a few handfuls because
Yeah.
pony, and then the skinnier one, we just fed him a little bit more, like the maximum amount, and really good hay, and then like a little alfalfa to get the weight on him. But
That's true. And also Chewy, I believe Chewy carries it now. Chewy.com will carry it online because it's not always accessible. So that's sometimes why we had done the other route. But I think if it's pretty accessible at this point. So yeah, that's the first thing we do. Then
when
the
you
other
also, so that's really nice too. It like becomes a
oh,
snack.
you want
You
it.
just add a little bit of water, and the horses seem to like it. It smells really good. It's like really pure. So
Yes, for sure.
yeah.
Do you want me to talk about the other things that we add in the food? So with the cool stance, you do need a vitamin, a multivitamin, because it's not fortified with all the vitamins. So we like to use Nutrimix, which is made by, I believe it's Stride Health now, right? Makes Nutrimix.
Yeah.
And that's how we order that. And then we also put them, usually we will put them on quiescence, which is a magnesium chromium supplement. That's great for the metabolic horses, but it's also good for the hotter horses because it has a calming effect. So it just helps aid with the training because they're under stress, learning new things. And we get sale horses, so they're constantly changing environment, going to horse shows, and it's safe. It tests. It does not test, I believe. Um, and then we also add, if they're sore, it just depends how much work they're doing. And if they look like they're getting a little hitchy, we'll add Trelevium tablets, which are homeopathic arnica. It's like arnica and it has other homeopathics in it, and that is definitely FEI approved. They do Tramiel injections usually in the FEI. So Trelevium is a takeoff of Tramiel. It's accessible in the United States because Tramiel is actually only accessible in Europe now and Great Britain. You can't get it in the United States. And then the other, I'm trying to think. Oh, the other thing that is very important is the element. So
This is probably my favorite product.
yes.
Made by Vitalize, or they used to be called Amafirm, and we've been using this for years. And it is a stomach buffer, and it has hindgut support, like probiotic, prebiotic, and then it also has hyaluronic acid for the joints. And our horses look beautiful on this supplement. Their coats get really, really shiny and soft, and it helps in stressful situations with the ulcers. It helps just coat the stomach on a daily basis. So we
It also helps absorb nutrients better because of the pre-probiotic. And it's hyaluronic, I think, not hyaluronic acid yet for the joints. That's fine. But yes, it helps them absorb all their nutrients. So actually, you don't even have to feed as much grain because it's helping them absorb the food.
Yeah, and I feel like everyone has their own supplements that they really like using. This is just what we found that works the best for us, and a lot of different horses have thrived on this kind of little concoction. So yeah.
And then the other thing we do that goes in alignment with the element is they also make another product called recovery gel paste
The equine.
and the equine recovery gel. And so from Vitalize. So that is something they get for the first 5 days because it just helps them with any stress and to prevent ulcers. And it even has a little bit of a healing effect for ulcers. If you think your horse has more ulcers, then they might have to go to a route like a meprazole or something to help treat the ulcers. But the way to tell that is, do you want to explain the acupressure point that we can use? You were saying it's you go down the shoulder of the horse, the scapula, you follow scapula, and then where the neck kind of meets the scapula, there's a little, it kind of intersects, and you hold your finger, you push your finger there, and if they have really bad ulcers, they will try to bite you. Depending on the level, if there's no reaction, there's obviously no ulcers. If there's even just a slight inclination, like a little bit, and you just keep testing it because sometimes they're like, oh, my horse will move away whenever I push on them. But the more you do it, they'll either tune you out, or they'll still be reactive, which means they have ulcers. And I actually just learned about a new product the other day that it's called, it's Nexium for people, and it's esomeprazole, and it's a lot cheaper to get. And that's what the FEI, a lot of the FEI riders are using now. And you need 120 milligrams per day is the dose. And I think it was milligrams. I said that right. And they need it and you can do that for like a week, and that will help treat ulcers. Very cheap, and it'll also be like a prevention. So if you think they're a little ulcer, you could just do it a week.
Which we also love the Alamen for. What we've personally,
Yes.
the Alamen is a great ulcer prevention because it is coating the stomach, and same with the Amifirm paste. Like whenever we're taking our horses to the show, the day that they get they get the Amifirm before we leave, or like at the horse show, I give them an Amifirm paste, or it's called the recovery paste.
Yes.
The show. And those are great preventatives also. Like we've never personally had one that's needed like the full ulcer treatment because the preventative stuff is so good. And also like that we feed small amounts of grain, and we're not having to feed our horses like 2 scoops of grain at every meal. Like being able to just feed small quantities with the cool stance has been really, really great in preventing that from even happening. But yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I think we covered what we feed them basically.
The acupressure kind of goes into the next thing that we wanted to talk about, which is the acupressure and body work that we do on our horses. So if you want to start with the acupressure, we can start there. With so every time a horse comes into our barn, we do this fun little thing where we identify what organ type they are, which organ type they are, and that just means like which organ is most dominant and weak in their, is that how that works? Most dominant and weak in their system?
Yeah, I think there's a weakness in the organ, and I'm just going to look up the name of the book that we refer to. So if you want to keep talking about it, I'm just going to quick look up the author.
Acupressure for Horses, which has been great. And it goes over each type, and you can tell which type they are based on their personality, which is kind of fun. So I'll let you get into like the actual different types, but what we'll do is we'll do specific body work and acupressure and like tracing different meridians on their body depending on what type they are, and that helps with all sorts of soundness issues and health issues, as well as like behavior, which is huge. So if you want to get into the different types.
Yes, so the book it's called Acupressure for Horses, Hands-on Techniques by Ina Gosmeyer, and she's German, and she actually works for all the top German national competition teams. So she's using these tools. So acupressure is a great way if you don't want to, it's a lot less invasive than acupuncture. So that's, you can, yes, you can do it yourself as long as there's not something too terribly wrong. So it's a great way to start. So the elements are, well, we have the wood element, which is a liver, as she calls it in the book, a GAN type, which rules the liver. So those type of horses tend to be a little standoffish, like they're
typical show horse that you never know if he's like a little bit pissy, but he's not, but they're just kind of more like confident and not like the cuddly sweet type. They're just kind of like in their own little world, and they're
more the leader type. So that's why they make great show horse, because they tend to be less spooky in new environments. They handle that, but they do have that attitude, like you said, what's eating at my liver is what she calls it in the book, where they pin their ears in the stall at you sometimes, but not really be mean. They're just, that's just kind of their nature.
One of our best horses that we have is a Grand Prix horse now, but he was definitely like stereotypical GAN type. He is never cuddly. He was always just like very independent, very confident, like in his own little world, but he was a great horse. He was super confident, like really great jumper for me up to like really high levels. So he was typical.
Yes. Then there's the let's see, we said the lung type, which is considered metal element, and those are ruled by lung horses. They are more lean built, and you typically see them in eventing a lot because of their build, and they sometimes take a little longer to develop physically, but because they are so lean and lanky, but they make really good event horses. These are just brief overviews. And then the next one would be
Attributes of lung type is they're really willing too. That's like one of their they're really
yeah.
like very willing. They try really, really hard.
Yeah, they almost try too hard to the point you have to kind of know not to over push them. That's why they make good event horses, because they're just go. And then the next one would be the heart type,
Mhm.
which I believe is just called the heart. It rules the heart, and they're called the heart type, or the fire element. I should say it's a fire element which rules the heart. So the fire element rules, and that's the heart type. Those can be sort of, they can sweat up very easily, especially after work, they say, like you can see them like get washed out. I tend to notice horses that sweat kind of in their butt when you ride them, in between the, the hind end.
A lot, like they're like frothy, like sweat kind of thing. But they're also like the happiest horses ever. One of our favorite horses, and I know it's my mom's favorite horse that we ever had.
Yeah.
He was like a heart lung type, and
Yes.
a little bit of a mixture. We find that usually the horses have like two that are most predominant, but he was definitely the heart type, and he was always happy, always tried so much, loved people. They call him like the golden retriever type, like
Yes.
social and happy and kind. And so that's, yeah, some attributes of that type.
Yeah, that's what I was looking up in the book here, is that when she talked about the fire type, yeah, that's a little different, the heart type. So then the other one is the pie type, which is like your basic, I would say that the pie is the earth element, I believe. And that's the one that's like the school horse type, because
Organ
they're
does
just,
rule. The spleen is
the spleen would be the organ for the pie type, yes. And those have funny, they like to stick their tongues out. We had a horse that was a pie, and they will hang their tongue out. They're one of those that just like hang their
tongues, like they have like these big squishy tongues that they love people to like play with, and they kind of just have like a squishy element to them. That's how I would describe the pies.
Yeah, and typically you'll see them, they make actually really good school horses because they're just steady Eddie pretty much all the time. Great amateur horses. And so that's another thing that you had just touched on in the book. They talk more about different tongues, and like the pie you can grab. Some horses have a harder tongue and won't let you grab it, or a smaller mouth, that type of thing. So that actually leads into the next element, which is the water element, which is ruled by kidney, and that's called the Shen type. And those are more like this, they're a little bit scared of new surroundings, because kidney, or what am I trying to say?
Yeah, so like when they're in new environments,
The water element is ruled by fear. So yes, they have a lot of fear of new situations.
environment. This might be the horse that snorts at the new, flower in the ring or like whatever. So they're like very in tune with their surroundings, almost to a point where like they're hyper aware of everything. These horses typically are a little bit more spooky types. Also try really hard. They're very much internalizers from what I've have seen with some of the horses that we've had, but like they try really hard, but they internalize everything, and they can be a little bit more like you don't quite know like what they're thinking all of the time, because they're more like introverted in a way. And they have like smaller mouths and tongues that are like small and hard, that they
And
don't
small joints, yeah.
like you playing with their mouths a lot. But yeah, it's typically like a Shen. And we've had some cross Shen. We've had like a Pi Shen, and then we had like a Gan Shen recently. And that's kind of like the Shen will mix in with the other type a little bit.
Yeah, so assessing all of these types helps us to know what acupressure points to use for the horse. So with the Shen one in particular is very lacking confidence, we did some points that would help strengthen his confidence, and it also rules the reproduction area. So that kind of, sometimes you might get horses with more like a studly behavior, or like overly hormonal mare. That would be probably a Shen, because it's ruled by reproduction. So that was the other that we.
So what we'll do is like each element comes with their own kind of issues or like weaknesses. So we'll immediately start doing we'll trace the different meridians down their body, and we'll do the different acupressure points depending on what we're seeing in their personality and their soundness. And then we'll do it specifically for each type to kind of like strengthen those things. And it really, really helps. We've had a lot of success with like the horse that needed more confidence, and the ones that, some are more prone to allergies or like lung issues, like the lung type. So we'll do different things for that. And that's a super great way. It doesn't cost any money. You can do it yourself. You just need to educate yourself a little bit on how these different systems work. That book, Acupressure for Horses, works amazing. And then we also do a lot of body work. I've kind of dove into the body work world for a little bit now. I'm not like a trained professional by any means, but there's so much that I can do with my horses just with myself. And it's a great way also to like get to know where your horse is holding tension, and it helps me as the rider and trainer also to know where my horse's weaknesses are in its soundness. Like if they have a really tight pull, like those horses might, they might be more particular about the bit that they have because they just have a lot of tension in their pull. Or maybe they are sticky lead changers, like they have kind of a sticky change. And if I know that my horse has a sore pull, I can start working on that to help all of these other training issues. So as a rider and a trainer, it's really great to get your hands on your horse and just see where they're holding tension, what's causing them pain, and help them release that tension. I do a lot of the Masterson method. That's my favorite form of body work. It's very non-invasive. You are doing everything very lightly so the horses don't get in defense mode. That causes more tension, like some deep massage and stuff like that can sometimes cause the horses to brace internally and actually cause more tension. So this is a very, very soft and subtle way, and you'll start to see the horses release their tension when you get to certain spots. They'll start yawning and chewing and relaxing, and yeah, we can get more into that because the other thing that we do is my mom's product that she makes, which is amazing. But they all go together, and I love doing body work. So those are like the things that we do right when the horse gets to us before we even focus too much on the actual training. Because if they can't feel good physically, they're not going to be able to thrive in all of these different things that we want them to do under saddle. So
right. And that was, I didn't know if you want to talk about the product a little, because we do put that on right when the horses get there.
One of the main things we do, my mom makes these products called Cosmic Comfort EQ, and I can kind of let you talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, so we make 4 different products now. A halter cover, which goes on the brow of the halter, and then a bridle cover, same thing, goes over the crown piece, and a saddle patch, which I call the all-purpose patch because it goes underneath the saddle, between the saddle pad and the saddle, and you can also just put it anywhere in a leg wrap. And then I also make a blanket now that is full coverage. So when the horses get there, we typically will put a halter cover on them because that's something that works on the far infrared level for muscle soreness, stress, relaxation, and helps with any tension that they have. So when you put it on the halter, you will probably within the first 5 to 10 minutes, any product you put on, you'll notice them licking and chewing within 5-10 minutes at the most, start to relax, their eyes soften, they get more relaxed in their breath. And that just helps, especially when they first come in because they're pretty stressed from being in a new place. And by leaving the halter covers on, we like to leave them on 24/7. So we put them in a breakaway halter and just let them wear it because that way they're getting the full effect of the product 24/7 that compounds over time, but it helps with digestion too and appetite.
All of these other things that we do because we
incorporates everything.
Started like doing all of these other things before we ever had Cosmic Comfort, but then since we've added it, it just amplifies everything else that we're doing. It helps their digestion, it helps them release tension, it helps their stress levels, like all of these different things. So that's been like a huge part of our program. Love the blanket. I love riding in the the patch that we put under the saddle. I show in that. I ride in it every day. We have bridle covers on all of our bridles, and that's really great. And one cool thing is when you start doing body work with the horses and you have the Cosmic Comfort, you'll see a very similar reaction. So when we first put the Cosmic Comfort on a horse, they'll start releasing their tension in the place that they're sore. So we've had horses that are really sore in like the TMJs and the poles, and they'll start grinding their teeth and yawning, and like that's their way of releasing tension because that's where they're the most sore. And then we've also had horses where they'll start stretching a back leg, or they'll be like lifting the back legs up to release tension. And then those usually have more like SI joint or hind end type tension. And that's the same exact thing when you're doing the body work. I notice direct correlations of where the horses are releasing with Cosmic Comfort and where they're releasing when I'm doing body work. And it all just works together really, really nice.
Yeah, it gives you an indicator of where they might need a little extra help with the body work is what I think. And then with the product, some horses, if before using the product, we couldn't even, if they were sore in the pole, you couldn't even get near them to do the body work because they'd be so sore. You'd have to stand like
far away. Yeah.
way farther away. Like you're supposed to get as close as you can with a light touch and go, along their skin. But some horses were so sore, you couldn't even get near there. But when you put the product on, it helps take out a good chunk of that tension so that you can get closer.
Those horses too. Something that I feel like not a lot of people know about. I mean, I think it's getting more popular now, but is testing for EPM and Lyme.
Yes.
So those horses that are like really agitated, really you can't get near them to do the body work, to touch them. They like
Or brush them.
Crabby, sulky when you ride them.
And brushing and grooming.
Those horses usually have Lyme disease. And so if we suspect that at all, we always test for EPM and Lyme. And we have used the Pathogens Lab. It's based in Ocala, so that was local to us when we were there. And it's a super reasonable way. You just send in a red top of blood and they will run it, and they will tell you where the inflammation levels are for those different things. And being able to treat those right off the bat is so helpful, because I know so many horses that have undiagnosed lameness or soundness or like behavioral issues that are really just the EPM and Lyme in their system. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
that helps a lot.
for sure. Yeah, and then some of like the extra stuff, that's like one of the extra things that we do, like if we really have one that seems to have an issue. And we've had a lot come through that have had EPM and Lyme. If we can, we try and steer away from the Lyme ones, just because sometimes it can be like a big commitment in healing them and getting them fully better, like for our sale business especially. But we have had a lot of success with a couple that have had EPM, and we treat them and we just take it easy on them for a little bit, and then they're fine. So yeah. All right. And then the last thing that we do, I guess, is just tailoring our training right from the beginning towards, getting them fit and getting their top line built, so then they can do like more advanced things after. So while we're kind of in the process of getting them feeling their best, we do a lot of long and low stretching. We do lots of trot pulls, tons of transitions. I think that's my favorite thing to do with them. That just builds up their hind end. It helps with the collection later before you're even collecting them. So we do that. And then just like some really low impact groundwork, like hand walking is amazing. You can start to teach the horses a lot just through hand walking. And we could go like into a whole episode just on kind of like
Sure.
the end of this, but the training and the soundness, we definitely like are conscientious about both, and we try and integrate both of them in our program. So yeah, and then we always use snaffle bits. That's like my thing, because that's a personal preference. You're creating the least amount of tension with that, and I truly believe that any horse can ride in a snaffle. So
or
that's
a little soft three piece, which is
exactly a rubber bit. I call it the Bernie Charg bit. It's like a
3-piece rubber
end with like a 3-piece. So a lot of horses like that bit as well.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, I think that pretty much covers like the full thing. And
sure,
we've really leaned into this because we have a lot of sale horses, and these days everyone does super hard pre-purchase exams, and we need to make sure that our horses are feeling their absolute best. They can pass a PPE, so that way they can perform at their best. So I would consider our horses FEI sound. I'm sure they could pass any FEI jog out there. I've also worked at FEI groom and like applied some of these same things to those horses, and they were performing at the highest levels. So
one thing we did forget to mention was the summit joint or MoveX joint.
Extra thing, I've been using MoveX lately for the ones that are showing a lot. And that's just for their joints, and it works great. You can do it yourself. You don't need a vet for that. If you know how to do a muscle shot, you can give your horses those, and it's like you do like a loading dose, and you can look into it if you're interested. But that's our product that we use, MoveX. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we covered everything else. That was all.
No, thanks for being here. If you want to learn more about me or my mom's Jennifer Neumann, and her business is Cosmic Comfort EQ. I'll leave links somewhere where you can check that out. She has a website and also like Instagram and Facebook. And then our business with the sale horses and consignment and everything is Agape Sporthorses. And I will also leave a link to our website and our social media on here if you would like to learn more about that.
Great.
And I'm so excited we did our first episode. We've been wanting to do this.
Yes, I know. We're finally
podcast, but we never get our
we're always talking about these things together. So it's nice to be able to share them with other people and things that hopefully this was helpful to people, things maybe you hadn't thought about before, or products you'd like to try that we find helpful.
Yeah, for sure. And it's all about helping the horses. They can feel their best and be the best partners for us. So
yes.
Well, amazing. We're going to wrap it up here. Thank you for listening. If you made it this far, and stay tuned for more episodes. I think we'll try and do like a little weekly type thing with this. So really excited. Sure. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.